Using Caravel's classifier builder, you can easily test your classifiers for quality. In this video, we'll cover the basics of Caravel's testing UI, how to assemble a good test dataset, and calculating precision, recall, and F1 score. Let's create a new classifier to get started. For this demo, we'll select Customize My Own, and then create Ensemble as the method. Now imagine we make video conferencing software, and we want to detect the frequency of particular issues and complaints that come up in our customer feedback. So we're going to create a classifier called Issues. And we're going to use a combination of Caravel's pre-built zero-shot model and rules and conditions to pick up negative mentions of particular topics. Our first label will predict mentions of network connectivity issues. In the zero-shot topic input, we'll put network connectivity as the topic we want Caravel's zero-shot model to predict, and we'll select any as the rule. And we'll add two sentiment classification conditions to pick up mentions of a negative sentiment and also mentions of a very negative sentiment. And then we'll go ahead and click Duplicate Label and create all our other labels for this classifier using the same types of inputs. We'll create another label to detect issues with video quality, one for audio quality issues, another to pick up mentions of freezing and crashing issues, and a catch-all category called Other that will pick up all other mentions that are a negative or very negative sentiment. Now before we can start testing, we first need to save our classifier, and then once that's saved, we can click on the Test tab in the Classifier Builder and start building our test data set. Let's start with a quick overview of the testing UI. At the top of the UI, as you annotate your test data, you will receive hints as to steps you can take to assemble a better test data set to get more trustworthy results. Just below this is your testing panel, where you receive metrics around the number of samples that your test data set contains, your precision, recall, and overall F1 score. And just below this is the widget where you will assemble your test dataset by searching through your sources and tagging your labels. The first tab is called Untagged because it keeps track of all your untagged data from all of your sources. And for each label in your classifier, you have a tab that keeps track of the samples that were tagged for that respective label. And you also have a None tab. So you have the option of tagging samples as none if they don't apply to any of your labels. Within the testing UI, samples are presented one at a time, as you either tag them for their respective label or skip them. If you're uncertain about a sample's label, it's a good idea to skip it. We use a rule of thumb at Caravel that if within the first 5 to 10 seconds we can't immediately decide on its label, we'll go ahead and skip it. Now within the UI, you can always come back to your skipped items later, so don't worry about losing track of those. Now that you have a good understanding of the components of the UI, let's talk about how we can assemble a good test dataset using it. Any source that you have synced to Caravel is available from the Sources dropdown, so you can easily assemble a test dataset from your sources. Now if you already have a test dataset outside of Caravel, you can go ahead and upload that as a source and it will become available in this dropdown. Also available to you is a search bar that does approximate search across all of the selected sources. So we'll go ahead and start surfacing samples for our connectivity label that we can annotate. And as samples are surfaced, our classifier makes predictions for us, auto-selecting the right tag in this right-hand column here. And you can see in this sample, it's selecting none because our classifier did not predict a label for it. We'll go ahead and confirm the label none because it's not an issue and not particularly one of the topics that we want to predict. And we'll start to begin working our way through the dataset one by one. And as you can see, as we're picking up samples, our classifier is making predictions for us in the right-hand column. And we're able to confirm or correct those labels as we go through the data. As you annotate data in batches of 5, Caravel will begin automatically running tests for you. And once those tests have run, we can see that the metrics in our reporting panel have been updated. So let's chat quickly about what these metrics mean and how to optimize them. Precision tells us when a classifier is predicting a label, is that prediction actually correct? And recall gives us an indication of labels that our classifier should have predicted, but it did not. If precision is high and recall is low, it's an indication that the constraints on your classifier are too strict. If recall is high and precision is low, it's an indication that those constraints are too loose. Overall F1 score is the mean of precision and recall, taking both metrics into account, and is often the measure that you want to optimize for. In this case, Caravel is dropping us a hint that the number of samples tagged is too low to be able to trust these measures. So let's go ahead and annotate more data. With a test dataset of 28 tag samples and an F1 score of 86%, we're doing pretty good. But as I was annotating this test data, I noticed one particular label that our classifier was a little bit too strict on, our freezing and crashing label. So let's go in and make a quick adjustment to the zero-shot topic to see how that impacts our F1 score and see if we can get this recall measure a little bit higher. So let's jump to that label setting and change it from freezing and crashing to just freezing so it's not so strict. And then we'll jump back over to our test view to rerun our test to see how that change impacted recall and our F1 score to see if there were improvements. And as we can see, it drove our recall up to 89% and our F1 score up to a total of 94%. Those are pretty good numbers. I'm going to go ahead and take this classifier and analyze our data. Visit docs.caravelapp.com for more insights into testing and other parts of the Caravel platform.